Let's go find ourselves a big boy.
This past June, I embarked on a journey to go see the largest operating steam locomotive in the entire world, Union Pacific's Big Boy number 4014, which was displayed at Steamtown in Scranton, Pennsylvania from June 15th to July 1st. This event was pretty special because not only are you going to see Big Boy 4014, but you're also going to see a part right next to its brother, Big Boy number 4012, which is a prominent part of Steamtown's impressive collection. I had actually visited Steamtown for the first time last September, and here I am 9 months later. So I got in my car and I drove over 5 hours from Massachusetts to Pennsylvania, and it was quite the ride. I must say, seeing two big boys in one spot is quite the surreal experience. This is the first time these engines have been next to each other in 80 years. I absolutely love the special plaque they made for the front of 4014, and that golden eagle statue. And who could forget the white wall tires?
Black wall tires, they blend into the pavement. But these white wall tires, they say, look at me, here I am, love me.
Sorry, I had to. It was the first thing I thought of when I saw 4014. I visited Steamtown nearly every single day on this trip, so I could see every change they made to the engine while they prepared it for its drive to Philadelphia on July 1st. The first thing I witnessed them doing was a boiler wash. They had to wait 7 days for Big Boy's boiler to cool down so they could service it. They had all sorts of equipment to wash the inside of the boiler to get rid of any buildup soot or gunk that may have formed while it was traveling. The Union Pacific is basically using Steamtown as a maintenance stop so they can check the engine and give it servicing so it's ready to make the next trip on its coast-to-coast tour. When I wasn't admiring the sight of two big boys, I was exploring the rest of Steamtown, visiting the Roundhouse, looking at the Rest Museum, and of course checking out the consist that 4014 has been pulling on its coast-to-coast tour, which they had conveniently parked in the Steamtown yard. Which, of course, was quite hard to see from the boardwalk, but I was mostly just happy that the boardwalk was fixed, because the last time I was there, thought I was going to snap my ankles a couple of times. I also witnessed a Delaware-Lackawanna freight train pass through the site, which, up until that point, I thought there were no active railroads in the area, so that was quite a nice surprise. To wrap up the first day, I went and checked into my hotel, which is the old Erie-Lackawanna headquarters, and man, let me say, this building is gorgeous. I have never stayed in such a place like this, and it has been kept the exact same way as it was built in 1908, and the fact that the railroad tracks right behind it made for some good rail fanning later in the trip. On the second day of my journey, I didn't visit Steamtown at all. Instead, I drove down to visit the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania in Strasburg. I really enjoyed this museum because I am a big fan of the Pennsylvania Railroad, and to see a lot of their old steam engines and early diesels was pretty cool. I especially loved seeing the prototype GG1 locomotive, as those are one of my favorites. They had quite an extensive collection, ranging from old rolling stock to old steam engines like Atlantics, K4s, Consolidations. They even had a Shea locomotive, which I was not expecting. And they even had an exhibit where you could go underneath the steam locomotive and see all the driving gears, which was really cool. Another piece of the collection that I really liked was this E8 locomotive, which those who like Alan Jackson may recognize as the same engine used for the cover of his Freight Train album. After I finished up in the museum, I headed across the street to the Strasburg Railroad. There, I watched their afternoon excursion train come back into the station, do a little bit of switching with some cars, and then head right back out. This is a really cool experience, as I never actually rail-fanned a live steam engine before, so this is quite the opportunity.
For those on open air, we're going to ask you to delay for a little bit while we remove one of the open air cars for your safety. So again, ladies and gentlemen, please stand behind the yellow line, on the bricks to allow the train to safely proceed to the station. Train 100 of the Victoria Valley, built on
I will say, this excursion train was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be when I was pulling in, so I'll cut it down a little bit for you. There were plenty more sights to see down there as well. It's not just the choo-choo barn, a giant O-scale layout that is quite the spectacle. And since I drove by it on the way to the museum, I figured why not stop by. I highly recommend going to this area, especially if you love trains.
Nice advertisement.
The third day started with a very long freight train going right by my hotel. It featured all sorts of cars, from Union Pacific to BNSF to Canadian Pacific. Where I live, we don't get these massive freight cons this often, so having one go right by my hotel was a real treat. I sped up the footage by about 700% because if I didn't, we were going to sit here for the next 5 minutes watching me gawk over Union Pacific and Santa Fe cars going by. During my second visit to Steamtown on this trip, I noticed they moved some equipment around while I was in Strasburg. Most notably, the nickel plate road Alco PA that was originally sitting in front of 4014 on my first day. They had moved it inside the turntable area, which I was quite happy with because that meant I got to take better pictures of it. They also had the Baldwin number 26 steaming up in the roundhouse, getting ready for the weekend excursions that would start the next day. I've also been meaning to talk about a goal that I had while I was down here. Before I left, I 3D printed and painted a 4014 number plaque, and I wanted to get it signed by Ed Dickens, who, in case you didn't know, is the chief engineer of 4014. Today, I managed to achieve my goal, and Ed signed my plaque and a postcard that I later gave to my great uncle when I got back home. After getting the plaque signed and chatting with a friend, I got to tour the workshop. This is where they serviced and restored all of their engines. One notable engine they had back there was the Boston and Maine 3713, nicknamed the Constitution. This was a Pacific-type engine that has been in restoration for over 30 years. I was just happy to see some stuff from the Boston and Maine survived. Of course, being from Massachusetts, this is a special engine for me to see on this trip. After the workshop tour, I managed to get a seat in 4012, which I had actually not gotten when I was down there the first time, so this is completely new to me. This was quite the surreal experience to be able to sit inside the cab of a real big boy. If you're ever wondering what valve to turn, it's that one. Anyways, in terms of 4014, this is the day they were starting to fire up the engine, which takes about 3 to 4 days to fully go under power, which sadly meant I never got to hear the whistle when I was down there, but I'll make sure I hear it someday. I didn't stick around much at Steamtown after the workshop tour and checking out 4012, and of course getting my plaque signed by Ed, so I decided to go into the mall, check that out again, and then afterwards I went around to some local train stores, which I did not get any footage of. But I will show you all what I got at the end of this video. Day 4 began with me booking it to Steamtown because I could hear what I thought was 4014's whistle bellowing through the city. It was not. It was actually Baldwin number 26 moving through the yard and grabbing its excursion consist, which, watching that, was pretty cool. Someone had told me the day before that they did the chalking on 4014 and 4012 Smokebox on Thursday, which, in case you didn't know, is one of 4014's key features, paying homage to the Alco employee who rode it on the first production Big Boy back when they were being built in 1941. Since it had rained the night before, it washed all the chalk away, but I could still see a tiny little bit left on 4012. After admiring the big boys once again, I decided to go hang out at the turntable for a little bit. While I was there, they loaded the Delaware and Lackawanna number 1776 onto the turntable and spun it around. I thought this was really cool to see the turntable actually being used, as I had not seen this before. And little did I know, this is not the last time I was going to see this today. After watching 1776 get spun around the turntable, I decided to head back to my hotel and chill out for a while. While I was there, Baldwin number 26 decided to pay me a little visit and drove right by my hotel. I actually rode on the excursion train later on in the day, and they talk about the Lackawanna station quite a bit, giving a brief history about the station and how it aged over the years. It was pretty cool, and I guess I picked a pretty good hotel to stay in. I headed back to Steamtown later in the day and found that 4014 finally had its chalking on the smoke box, and they decided to put some flags in the flagpoles on the pilot. To me, this was the best opportunity for taking photos of the engines, and I took quite a few good ones of 4014. While I was riding the excursion, they mentioned how it was the last ride of the day, and they were going to be putting Baldwin number 26 back in the roundhouse for the day. I ended up recording a 9-minute video of them putting the engine away, which was a really cool experience. On the morning of day 5, I decided to go down one last time to see 4014 and 4012 before I had to head home. I took quite a bit of photos and videos, and although it rained, I am quite happy with the footage. After that, it was time to head home to Massachusetts. I really enjoyed this trip, and I cannot thank the Union Pacific enough for giving us who live on the East Coast a unique opportunity to see this beast of an engine. I'd also like to thank Ed Dickens for being nice enough to sign that plaque for me. It was definitely one of the highlights of my trip. Another shout out I'd like to make is to the roving rail fan. I had met him in the lobby of the Lackawanna Hotel, and he makes incredible rail fanning content, so I highly suggest you check him out. And now, this is all the stuff I got from my trip. Definitely a decent amount, I would like to say. I know this is quite the unusual video for those long-time subscribers, but how can I not make a video on this historic event? I would like to thank you all for watching, and who knows, I might do some more railroad content on this channel. Until the next time, I have some trains to run.